Have you tried to talk reasonably to somebody who's really angry? It doesn't usually work very well. Bruce Perry gives us a tip about how to handle it. He said we should first regulate, then relate, and then reason. So what does that mean? Well, we can't reason with a person who feels unsafe or threatened. They revert back to basic survival level, and they become so flooded with emotions like fear and anxiety that it takes over their whole brain. So the first thing to do is to calm the person and regulate the emotion. It's tempting to get drawn into their anger so that we too become angry and it just ends in an argument or worse. We might tell the person off in a shaming way or scare them. That only makes it even harder to deal with and less likely for them to be available for a reasonable conversation. It works best for us to stay calm, keep our voice gentle, watching our words and actions, and being aware of our body language. We don't stand too close, too far away, we remain alert and aware. By being calm, we give the other person an invitation to calm down. We might take the person away from the situation, especially if there are things that would further trigger their anger. This allows the person to regulate their emotions so they're not overwhelmed or driven by their emotion. Breathing techniques are very simple but can be surprisingly effective at calming people. Box breathing, for example, is where we breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, then breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and then we start the cycle again. If you're dealing with a child having a tantrum, then coming down to their level so you're not looming over them and using words they can understand will help to calm them. Once we have emotions regulated, then the next levels up can turn back on again. Next, we connect and relate to the person. We show empathy and care, and we reach out to show that they are accepted. You might even give them a drink of tea or coffee. We can acknowledge their anger so they feel heard. You might disagree with what they're saying, but you can still acknowledge their feelings as valid for them. Only when we have regulated and related can we move on to reasoning. Now the person is calm and connected enough to step back from their situation and reflect on what's happened, and then we can find ways to start moving forward. So we can only talk reasonably when we too are regulated and relating. A reasonable conversation requires skills like respect, listening, appreciation, and paying attention. When both people have as much of their brain active right through from the survival level to the emotional, to the thinking, to the social level, then we can get into a good, full conversation. The reason for this three-step approach is related to the way our brain is made up. The brain was formed in layers, evolving from the basic level of survival. Until we feel safe and protected, the rest of our brain will shut down. So the first thing we need to do is ensure a safe atmosphere. Then our emotions will help us to know how we feel about our situation. But emotions are only about the present moment. In order to know what to do in the future, we need to think. When we think, we can imagine other solutions. And when we talk and share ideas with other people, even more possible solutions arise. We can also use regulate, relate, and reason on ourselves. When we notice that we are not well regulated, we can choose to take a break, breathe, find a distraction or whatever. We can relate to ourselves, acknowledging our feelings and using self-talk to have our own conversation that will help us cope better. Regulate, relate, and reason is therefore a simple tool we can put in place when we or somebody else is feeling under pressure that allows us to cope in better ways.